Hi guys, Ramsey here. Welcome to another video. Today we're going to do a bit of an early first impression. It's not really a first impression because I have worn this 3 times now, given it 3 full wears. So if you've been watching my channel, you know I've been away for a little bit. I apologize for the lack of videos that I've been uploading lately. I know I was very regularly doing a video a day there. And then I went away a week ago to Arizona, a week and a half ago. And then we took the kids these past couple days to a place here in Texas called Great Wolf Lodge, which is like a hotel / water park. The water park's inside the hotel. And they loved it. And I've also been studying for my CFP. Work has been absolutely mad. There's a lot going on in my life. So, again, that's my short way of saying I apologize for the the lack of uploads lately. I know I've been absent as of late, and I do apologize. The other thing that happened is I caught COVID a month ago, and my nose has been a little untrustworthy, let's say. Even though I didn't truly lose my sense of smell, it's not 100% like it was. I would say it's probably 80%, right? So that extra 20%, sometimes I second guess myself. I want to wear things longer. I want to be 100% sure that what I'm telling you guys is true of how I feel at that moment. So that is a long intro of saying, hi, I'm sorry I missed you guys. And today we're going to be talking about a discontinued concentration of a Roja Dove fragrance. You can still get the extrait, of course, for double the price, of course. And this came out in 2014, and it's a fragrance that's called Reckless pour Homme. Now, they did what they used to do back in the day. So when Roja used to release fragrances 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years ago, he even did it with Diaghilev, actually, which is one of my favorite Rojas of all time, maybe my favorite. And I wish I could smell the eau de parfum. I have the extrait, but they would release an eau de parfum and an extrait. And then I think what was happening was people were buying the eau de parfum. They weren't spending double the money for the extrait. So they just discontinued all the eau de parfums whenever they started creating the parfum colognes is what they call them. The ones in the colorful bottles, the rose, like the vetiver's green, danger is red, that kind of thing. And they took the caps, which the old eau de parfum caps used to look like this. This cap without the actual Swarovski crystals or whatever they call it, this cap right here is on on the extraits basically, with the crystals all over it. And the eau de parfums used to come in this cap, which I also like, perfectly fine, with Roja's signature on top. But these became the parfum cologne cap. So anyway, that's an easy way to distinguish some of the different concentrations of Rojas. And this particular fragrance we're talking about is called Reckless pour Homme Eau de Parfum. So again, the Eau de Parfum is discontinued. You can still buy Reckless pour Homme on the Roja website in the extrait for 375 pounds, which basically works out to about $454 right now, based on the $1.21 pound to pound sterling to dollar conversion. That's a lot of money. And this fragrance is, so when we talk about fragrances with Roja Dove, I always bunch them into groups in my mind. Some of them are extraordinary, even if they're, based on or heavily inspired by older fragrances. Like, for example, Diaghilev reminds people very much of Mitsuko, Rochas Femme, maybe a little bit of Bandit and Azure thrown in there. Great Britain will remind people of things like Queer Canage by Dior. They will also remind people mostly of Cuir de Russie, right? And even though there are reminders of those fragrances in there, the Roja fragrances like Diaghilev and Great Britain are so amazing that I can overlook those similarities, let's say. This also has a serious similarity to a previous fragrance. And the thing about it is, if you are someone who just casually sniffs fragrances, if you're not someone like me that's insane, basically, and addicted to fragrances and smells everything that they can get their nose on, you might not catch the fact that this smells 90%, maybe even more than 90% similar to a Clive Christian fragrance. Whoops, let's put it the right way, Ramsey. A Clive Christian fragrance, which I pulled this box out before. And inside of this box holds actually what I would say my favorite Clive Christian, or one of my favorite, my top two Clive Christians, and that's a fragrance called X for Men. X for Men came out in 2001. It was perfumed by Giza Schoen, who went on to do the Eccentric Molecules brand, right? And X for Men and Reckless Pour Homme, which came out in 2014, so 2014, 2001, are very similar, extremely similar. In fact, they're so similar, you could almost call Reckless a clone, almost, okay? There are some differences, but it basically is a woody, spicy scent that shares serious similarities. I would be shocked if they didn't pull out a gas spectrometer and see what was in X and try to create something similar, because remember, at the time, in 2014, Roja was still kind of under the radar. You know, he was at Harrods, but it was really only the crazy niche heads that really started to know about him. He really started to blow up, I think, in 2016, 17, 18, and then in 19 and 2020 with the advent of the lockdown in 2020, I think his brand blew up even bigger when he started doing the free bottles and stuff like that to the YouTube influencers. But anyways, that's a long way of telling a short background on the House of Roja. So let me read to you what the Roja website says about Reckless Pour Homme. It says, extraordinary awaits, and a pure cedarwood scented spice bomb chiffre. Reckless brings the heat of 5 lively spices to the natural warmth of a woody base. And I just did a fresh spray. I don't know if you can see it still on my hand. And I did a spray this morning when I woke up, which was about 6 hours ago. Okay, so I've got a 6-hour dry down, and I've got the fresh spray. And it says, natural warmth of a woody base, ginger, cinnamon, and clove build around prominent notes of cardamom and black pepper to create a profoundly yet perfectly balanced spicy opening, the impact of which is further lifted by the aromatic qualities of lavender, artemisia, and bay. That is true. I'll talk a little bit about that later. There are some aromatic qualities to this, and it's probably even more aromatic than X, but when I'm wearing this kind of scent, both of these are fantastic office scents, by the way. Okay, so if you're like regularly in an office around people, these are boss scents. They're CEO scents. Not as much as something like Patel Pour Homme, but they give off that air of professionalism, of a man that is, he is aware of his commitments, shows up on time every day. That's the impression that I get. Someone that's very responsible, pays his bills on time. That's the impression that this scent DNA gives to me for whatever reason. Maybe because in 2001, the only people wearing Clive Christian were probably executives or stuff like that. And so anyways, that's a quick note between the differences of one that's a little bit more aromatic and one that's a little heavier in the base. I actually prefer the heavier one, but they're both good. So further lifted by aromatic qualities of lavender, artemisia, and bay. This striking first impression never loses its punch as it settles into a natural bed of woods and mosses to create an inherently masculine composition. Yes, I will agree with that. It is inherently masculine. And in fact, you could take both of these. You could take Reckless, and you could take even Clive Christian X, okay, from 2001, and you could trace their roots. In my mind, both of these trace back to their grandfather. The grandfather was this. If you guys know this bottle, you know what this is, and you know that the impression that this made on the perfume world. This is Halston's Z14. I have 2 bottles of this. One is a splash. This one is a spray. And what a fragrance this is. I would urge you to get one that says Halston Fragrances Inc. if you can, or scratch that. Forget about trying to get one that says Halston Fragrances Inc. Just get one that does not say EA, Elizabeth Arden. Get one that says one of the other distributors of Z14. This is discontinued, by the way, now, which blows my mind because this was one of the most influential fragrances. Tom Ford basically copied this fragrance like 3 times. Beau de Jour is heavily inspired by Z14, and this was actually Tom Ford's favorite scent, okay? Beau de Jour was heavily inspired by 2 fragrances, Zeno by Davidoff and Z14, okay? These were his 2 favorite fragrances of all time. Beau de Jour, probably more Zeno. Italian Cypress, I'm sorry, I said Beau de Jour. Italian Cypress is the one that was heavily inspired by Z14. Beau de Jour was heavily inspired by Davidoff's Zeno. I already see in the comments people beginning to type wrong, wrong, wrong. Sorry about that. I am human. I do make mistakes. So they trace their lineage back to Z14, which if you know Z14, you know that it basically has a very prominent cinnamon note, if you will. And the cinnamon in Z14 is beautiful because it works fantastic with the heavier notes of benzoin and leather and frankincense. And the cinnamon mixes with the other notes, the cedar wood, which is prominent in Reckless and in X. So this is not meant to be a comparison video, but there's really no way you can talk about a fragrance like Reckless pour Homme, which smells 90% similar to Clive Christian's X, and not talk about it. You know, it would be like an elephant sitting in the room and, you know, you're trying to ignore it, but there's a giant elephant sitting there. What do, right? You have to talk about it. And even though the closeness between these two is much less, this is a little bit of a departure, but the very first time I smelled this, I instantly thought of Z14. You know, that woody spiciness, you know, without even a hesitation, my nose went, there's a little bit of an inspiration from Z14 here, right? And I say inspiration because X at least kind of does its own thing. In 2001, they didn't want to just create a clone. You know, they wanted to put out something that at least was a little bit different, was its own thing, that kind of stuff. So let's go through some of the notes. I want to read you the notes on all 3 of these because they're all very important. Z14 is cypress, which is the big distinguishing note between these 2, by the way. Okay, so neither of these has cypress, I don't think. Let's triple check that. I don't think either of these has cypress, to be honest with you. Reckless has cypress wood in the base, but that's a different note than cypress. So there is a little bit of a hint, which is very interesting that Roja stuck that in there. See, that's my beef with Roja, if you will, is he knows the history of fragrance so well. And, you know, he can riff off of these vintage fragrances that unless you're a serious frag head, you're not going to catch the comparison between Z14 and Reckless. Now, if you've ever smelled X by Clive Christian, there's no doubt in your mind these 2 will be instantly like a magnet, boom, together. You know, you can't pull them apart. They are so close. By the way, on a side note, before I continue talking about these, somebody gave me, they were kind of taking the piss in the comments, or maybe they were serious, I don't know. But they were saying, we don't like seeing samples, Ramsey. We only want to see full bottles. Well, if you know 7.5 mils is more than enough for you to form an opinion on, look how much I've worn of it, okay? 7.5 mils is a lot of juice. You do not need a full bottle to do a review on. Does it look nice to be able to hold up a bottle? Absolutely. But if anyone has a bottle they want to send me, I will gladly show the bottle and review it. But I'm not going to buy a full bottle of everything I talk about. That doesn't make financial sense unless you're a multi-millionaire, which I'm not. I will just put that out there right now. Unless you're a multi-millionaire, you can't just go buy full bottle. This is, like I said, almost $450. You know, that's a car payment for most people. And so, you know, since I'm just a regular guy with an independent channel, I'm not sponsored. I do this out of the love of perfume. I can't just go buy full bottles of everything. Now, that being said, many of these bottles that you see behind me, I've never done full reviews on. I'm starting with the samples because they're samples. They're not going to last as long. And, you know, it's a good way to kind of talk about something different. And then I can go back and do individual reviews on each of the bottles. So you will get full reviews with bottles coming. And I'm going to start mixing that in. But again, I've been kind of waiting for my nose to kick COVID's ass, which it's been taking a little bit. You know, it's been over a month and I'm still kind of, you know, recovering, let's say. So anyways, just a tangent that popped into my head because when I saw that comment, I was like, wow, you know, either this guy doesn't understand fragrance at all or he just, you know, wants to take the piss. I don't know. But so back to the fragrances. Let's go through the note list for X. Oops, that's Z14. X. All right, so the notes for X are bergamot, cardamom, ginger and juniper, jasmine, pimento, and iris with ambergris, styrax, labdanum, vetiver, vanilla, cinnamon, moss, and cedarwood. Okay, so remember the cardamom, the cedarwood, and the cinnamon. Those are the big three. Now, there's other notes that are going to be very similar, like styrax, labdanum, vanilla, you know, stuff like that. But what Reckless basically did is they took the blueprint of X and they made the opening a little bit more aromatic, okay? And what they did is they used bay leaf or laurel, whatever you want to call it, and artemisia, so it's a little bit green, you know, it has that bay leaf aromatic opening with lavender. So green, lavender, and then it goes down into that patented Roja Dove contrast of his floral heart, jasmine from grass, May rose, stuff like that, with Cistus labdanum, which he loves. Cistus labdanum is almost in every Roja. You know, Cistus labdanum is like his note du jour. And I talked a little bit about Cistus labdanum whenever we discussed some of these ingredients that Russian Adam so kindly sent to me. One of these is labdanum. And it is one of the few ingredients, here it is, labdanum resinoid. It is one of the few ingredients that's so beautiful, you could just wear this as a fragrance. It is so complex. And if I ever had my own brand, again, this goes back to my love-hate relationship with Roja. Because if I had my own brand, that is a note I would focus on as well because it's so beautiful on its own. And he puts it in almost everything. Cistus labdanum is like, you know, his secret weapon. And it's here, but it's not very heavy. And I would like to smell the extrait of this. I've never smelled the extrait. It's too expensive. But I've never smelled the extrait. But here, it's used with a much lighter hand than many of his other fragrances. You know, you get the labdanum heavier in the other fragrances, Diaghilev, stuff like that. And then it goes down into the heart and you get pepper, you get cardamom, you get cedarwood, you get cinnamon. Now, they've added a clove note. All right, so there's no clove in either fragrance. There's no clove in Z14. There's no clove in Clive Christian's X. And then the base is made up of cypress wood, ginger. So there is ginger in both of these, actually. There's another similarity. Frankincense, musk, oak moss, iris, sandalwood, styrax, tonka, and vetiver. So what does it smell like? So basically, there is this very distinct mixture of spices and woods, right? And whenever you first spray, it's almost instantaneous. Like the first 5 seconds, these two will go like this together, magnetic, you know, in your brain. Because that combination in the way that they're used smells like there's not really many fragrances that smell like this. That's one of the reasons I actually really like X. Is the combination of fragrances, of ingredients, of notes, if you will, hasn't been used very often. And I think that's probably what Roja was thinking. Number one, it hints to an all-time great fragrance that he loves. it definitely hints a little bit at Z14. He's never said he loves Z14, but Roja loves the classics. And again, love-hate relationship. I love the classics as well. You know, they're some of my favorites. I would almost argue that I would rather wear this. I'd rather wear Z14 than Roja's Reckless. You know, that's just my opinion. But smelling it, it feels like he took the DNA of whatever you want to call it, these two, right? And he did his usual, he Roja'd it up, right? What he did, he added the expensive jasmine from grass. He added the May rose, which is a trick that Olivier Creed did with Creed decades ago, before Roja ever had his own brand. Creed was doing this with fragrances for decades, taking a, you know, composition that was thrown away and just telling, you know, the perfumers to amp the ingredients up to the highest quality, add ambergris, add expensive jasmine, you know, use the better quality patchouli or whatever it was, use the high quality lavender. That kind of stuff is what he was doing. And it really, you can smell the high quality ingredients in Reckless. But this is one of my least favorite Rojas for whatever reason, maybe because I have experience with these two. You know, if you have never smelled these before, if you never smelled Clive Christian's X, or if you never smelled Z14 because you thought it was cheap, it was a Ross scent, it was a TJ Maxx, you know, it was $14 at TJ Maxx. How could it be good? You would be really fooling yourself, because this is an amazing fragrance. I absolutely love Z14, and I think Tom Ford is correct in trying to copy it with Italian Cypress, which now, by the way, sells for insane amounts of money. If you've ever looked up a bottle of Tom Ford Italian Cypress, it's unbelievable. Just go buy Z14, honestly. I mean, Italian Cypress, do not pay $1,000 for a bottle of Italian Cypress. I'm telling you right now, don't do it. And so when I smell Reckless, it has a DNA that I like, that I enjoy. It gives off an image that I'm okay projecting, right? You wear this to work or something like that, I'm perfectly fine giving off the image that this projects. But my brain constantly goes back. It goes to, well, why would I spend 375 pounds, $454 on Reckless X-Ray, because that's all that's available now, when I could get a bigger bottle of this for, you can get a big bottle of this for cheaper at discounters now. You can still buy these Z14 bottles. This is 1.9 fluid ounces. Strange amount, but it is. I just got a bottle of this on Mercari. Now, granted, it was a splash, but for like 22 bucks, value for money on something like this is through the roof, right? So Reckless is one of the forgotten Rojas, if you will. It wasn't made into a parfum cologne. So if you take something like, for example, Danger, which is one of my favorite Rojas, even though this is so close to Heritage, this is like just as close to Guerlain's Heritage as this is to Clive Christian's X. And that's why some people call Roja a clone brand. A very expensive clone brand, but they call him a clone brand because, you know, the similarities to fragrances from the past, if you know Guerlain's Heritage, there's no way on this earth that you smell Danger and don't associate it with Heritage. No way. By the way, do you guys as Rojas have stuff floating in it? Look at that. What is that? Is it not strained properly, or? And if anyone says that's the real ambergris, I swear to God. But this is a very, very good fragrance, and I love this DNA. I have 2 bottles of Heritage, and I have Danger. And this DNA is one of my favorite DNAs ever, but you just can't smell this without smelling Heritage. And I say that because this got turned into a parfum cologne. Vetiver, which is over here, Vetiver got turned into a parfum cologne. And Creation E, which I don't have here, it's under lock and key, got turned into a parfum cologne. And I think maybe one more got turned into a Parfum cologne. I can't remember which one it was. Oh, it was Scandal, which I have the Eau de Parfum right here, which I prefer the Eau de Parfum over the Parfum cologne or the Extrait. That's one where they got the Eau de Parfum right. Reckless got left behind. It didn't turn into a Parfum cologne. The Eau de Parfum got canceled because they weren't doing Eau de Parfums anymore. So it didn't carry over into the new line, which is probably a smart move. Roja did the right thing, I think, by discontinuing the EDP and not bringing it into the new line. But they still left the Extrait out there because that's where they make their money. If someone's willing to spend 375 pounds on a 50 ml bottle like this of the Extrait, that's where Roja really makes their money, on stuff like this. And again, I love this. I'm not completely knocking it, but I want to be perfectly fair. Even smelling this from the atomizer, it smells better than Reckless on skin. So that's basically what you get from Reckless. You get this very aromatic opening, and then it dries into this spicy, woody scent. That's basically the only way to describe it. You get some of the spices, you get the pepperiness, the pop of pepper, and, the lavender quickly dries down, and you start to get some of the base notes. You start to get some of the clove and styrax and stuff like that. So, is it a good scent? Yes. Would I buy a bottle of Reckless Pour Homme? You guys probably know the answer already. No, I think this is actually one of the weaker Rojas. If I was going to buy another bottle, if I was going to buy an Eau de Parfum, I would love to try the Eau de Parfum of Diaghilev. That would be my dream. That would be my dream Roja. If you said, Ramsey, you can have a free bottle of any Roja that you want, it would probably at this point be either a backup of Diaghilev Extrait or PDLN number 3, Parfum de la Nuit number 3. I really like that, but even that hints heavily at Eau de Hermes from 1951. So, if you know that, if you know the history of your fragrances, you're going to see connections with Roja all over the place, which goes back to my love-hate relationship with him, because he loves the classics, but recreating them and selling them for $500 scratches me a little wrong. You know what I mean? I feel like, when I was a kid growing up, I worked at Six Flags, right? And at Six Flags, they had these carnival games, and I did the carnival games. And, when you're being had, right? When you're a mark, right? And the basketball barely fits into the hole, or, the ring barely fits on the bottle, or you have to know the trick on Bankaball to get it in the box, it's a money-making scheme. And that's basically what he concocted. He used his time, he used his recognition of his name at Guerlain and his connections to Herod to create this brand, which put out some amazing things. Diaghilev and Great Britain, and even Fetish Pour Homme, even though that is so close to Bel Ami, it will drive some people crazy. I love it, right? And that's my love-hate relationship with him. Here, this is all hate, because Reckless Pour Homme does nothing for me. It doesn't move me at all. It seems very weak. It seems underpowered. It doesn't even smell like it has the high-quality ingredients. It's pleasant, but it will just remind you of Roja's take on Clive Christian X for Men. So I would rather get a bigger bottle of this, because I think this is closer to the way I would like this fragrance to be made, not Reckless. Or I would just buy more of Z14, honestly. I mean, especially now that it's discontinued, while there's still a bunch of these bottles floating around, try to get one that doesn't say EA Fragrances on the bottom. Try to get one that says Halston Fragrances Inc., or I think it's called Fine French Fragrances, or something like that. You'll know. It won't say EA on the bottom. Any of these that don't say EA are good. Even the EA version isn't terrible. It's just not this. Halston Fragrances Inc. is where you want to be. If you can find this at a decent price, grab it. You're getting an amazing fragrance. Here you're getting fantastic value for money for this DNA. Here you're getting terrible value for money. You're getting the DNA, but you're paying through the roof, okay? You're lining Roja's pockets so he can wear new Laboutins or whatever they call them. So that's the way I feel about it, you know? And that's why I created this channel, to tell you guys how I feel. If you're offended by it, sorry, you know, don't watch. Maybe this isn't the channel for you. If you disagree with me, I would love to hear your comments down below on why you disagree with me. But if you're just going to go down there and cry about being mean to Roja, I don't want to hear it. So, but I hope you did enjoy this take on Reckless Pour Homme. There's almost no talk about this fragrance on the internet, which is interesting because it's a Roja, and most people see this now as like an aspirational brand. You know what I mean? They see this as something to aspire to own a Roja, you know, to go to Harrods and spend $500 or $1,000 on a Roja means you made it. It's kind of like the old Lacoste shirts from the 80s. You got an alligator on your chest, you made it. That kind of thing. You know, that's what Roja's turned into. It's an aspirational brand. And cologne, it's not like a Bentley. Everyone wants a Bentley or a Rolls Royce. Those are aspirational car brands, but tiny percent of the population can buy it. Cologne, when it usually sells for 20 or 30 bucks, or 100 or 200, going to 500 or 1,000, yes, it's a step up. But I mean, heck, people go to the casino and blow $1,000 a night and not blink an eye, right? And so that's where he's making his living. That's where he's making his money, is it's become an aspirational brand. And, you know, for the true frag head that's not doing it to stunt or flex or whatever it may be, you have to judge it by its merits. And Roja has good and he has bad. And that's kind of why I keep making these videos, because I want to put my truth out there, my thoughts. And, you know, don't take this as offensive. If you love this fragrance, if this is your favorite, if this is your holy grail fragrance, you know, just shrug your shoulders and move on. Somebody out there, me, doesn't like it, you know. So what? If you love it, wear what you love. I'm not saying that it's a bad fragrance, because I don't think it's a bad fragrance. But I think when you take everything into account, okay, you look at the whole big picture, you step back from the trees and look at the forest, right? This is how I feel about Reckless. I think it's overpriced. I think it's very much a clone of X, which is inspired by Z14. And I think if you really know your fragrances, that, you know, this is one that will just either strike you as or thumbs down. I don't give ratings to fragrances, but this is why I like to buy these 7.5 mils. And I bought, actually, this Great Britain, I bought a 7.5 mil and almost, you know, bought a full bottle within a couple months. I had to save up a little bit for it because that was not cheap. But you get to test it. This is more than enough juice. If you can't make your mind up in 7.5 mils, buy another 7.5 mil. You know, don't just go blindly and drop this kind of money on a fragrance. So anyways, that's my take. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have experience with Reckless Pour Homme, Eau de Parfum, or the X-Ray, leave me a comment. Let me know what your thoughts are. Let me know what your thoughts are on my take on Roja. You think I'm being fair to him? Do you think I am not being fair? And a like, a subscription, a comment always helps the channel. You know, it is, I don't want you to leave a comment just to help the channel, though. I want you to leave a comment, and I will get back to you and hopefully interact with you. I try to respond to every single comment, unless you're just rude, you know. But even the guy that said, hey, you should show full bottles only, I even responded to that guy. You know, so I will respond to anyone who leaves a comment within reason. And, you know, I appreciate everyone watching, and I appreciate the support. And hopefully I'll be back tomorrow with another video. Cheers, guys. Bye.